question to ask you guys, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about it. So, some people may think that in life, there's two kinds of people probably. One that thinks that they can get from point A to B, and there's only one way to do it. Or there's people who think they can go from point A to B, and it doesn't matter how they get to A to B, but as long as they got there. So maybe somebody thinks, okay, I'm a Christian and I want to be a missionary, but there's only one way to do it. And there's other people who think, I'm Christian and I want to be a missionary, and I know I'm going to be a missionary, but I'm going to do it anyway as long as I get there. Do you guys think both ways are right, or is one way only the way? So I kind of had that to talk about today. So the title of my sermon is, should we jump when he says jump, or should we walk the path of righteousness? So my first example is some guys out here, I don't know, girls too, they probably just got their first car recently, maybe like 5 years ago for some of you guys. And with their first car, they like to pimp it out. And some people don't care what kind of car they drive as long as they get there, right? So there's two kinds of people, once again. People who, it doesn't matter how they get there, you know, it's any kind of car, it doesn't matter, it gets the job done. And there's nothing fancy about it. There's other people who are like, oh, I'm going to do it my way from A to B. I want to get there how I want to get there. I got to have some music pumping. I got to have lowered, scraping the speed bumps. I have to have all this flingy, flashy stuff as I get from point A to B, right? And then there's other people who are like, no, I don't care. It's whatever I can afford, and there's one way I'm going to do it from A to B. So there's two kinds of people. So we must live, so along with that example, there's some people, I've heard a story of a guy who had a really nice car, he pimped it out, and he was actually driving up the hill to our church, like a few years ago. He had a really nice car, he's driving up the hill to church, and I was driving up the hill too. And I saw the car up the hill, but I was in the middle of the hill just standing there. So I'm like, oh, that's a nice car. I'm like, wait, they go to our church. I'm like, okay, so I pulled over, and I came there, and I was like, hey, you know, what's the problem with your car? I mean, it looks nice, it's all blinged out, flashed out, everything like that. And he's like, well, I ran out of gas. I'm like, oh, okay. So, like, sometimes people's car breaks down, and they take it to the mechanic, and they're like, okay, what's wrong with my car? And then the mechanic will tell you, well, you need a new air filter, you need a new windshield wipers, this, and that, but it's only going to cost you $200. Okay, whatever, $200 here, you fix my car, you know? You give him $200, and it's like, okay, well, I understand all that stuff needed to be replaced, but what was the problem? Oh, you ran out of gas. Like, you know, something simple like that, and you never think about it, but that's like the main reason why you ran out of, like, why you stopped moving, but then you focus on, like, all the other things. So that's kind of how it is in our life. We must live life in motion and focus on the fuel that we need. Like, instead of the guys pimping out cars and like the air filters and everything that's unrelated, the knickknacks. And so you just have to ask the reason why we broke down or why we stopped moving in life. And the answer is that we ran out of fuel. And what is a fuel for a Christian? It's the Word of God, it's praying, it's spending time with Him. And sometimes, even I catch myself doing this, when I have so many things to do. I need to have a finance meeting with Christina, I have to have impact group, I have to come to choir, do all these things. And sometimes I forget like the reason. I just have to like literally every day I have to take like a time to just stop. Like just stop and think, why am I doing this? Where am I going with this? And in ministry, sometimes we just want to keep going with all these desires. They could be genuine desires. They could be awesome desires, but if you're not doing them with the fuel that we need, you're not going to go anywhere. You're adding all these bells and whistles. It looks beautiful from the outside. Your plan looks awesome, but there's no fuel to keep it going. So I had an example up here. So I have to have two people up here. Victor, could you volunteer for us? Okay, come up here. And Alex. All right, so I'm going to have you guys stand right here. One person right here and one person right here. And hold on, just stand there for a second as I explain. All right, so some people think that they need to kind of rush from point A to B, right? They have to just jump, they're going to jump through everything in life. They're going to just go easy ways. They're going to just God's just going to leap at them from everything, It's going to be easy and everything. But there's other kind of people who stop and walk through with righteousness with God, right? And walk in faith. And, all right, so today to illustrate this, we're going to have Alex, you're going to just run from here to the end of these chairs right here where the flowers are. And Victor, you can only jump. You can only go like this, okay? So ready, set, go. Well, if you guys missed it, Alex actually beat him. But, he's a crazy jumper, so hold on, do that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I picked a bad person for this. But, anyways, usually if a person's just jumping, okay, how about if you did that for a mile?
Backwards.
What if you did that for a mile?
No, you can do it. Let's do this now.
Okay, 1, 2.
Backwards. Jump. Don't run. Jump.
1, 2, 3.
Oh!
No, but if you guys think about it in a longer term. Think about it in half a mile, okay, half a mile. He has to jump for half a mile, and Alex can run half a mile. Who do you think's going to get there first?
Come on.
The person who ran and who did something continuously with a continuous pace, not the person who just tried full out jumping through everything. Sometimes, oh, you guys can sit down. Thank you so much. Give it a hand for them. Sometimes God leads us to walk through something that's really hard in our lives when we just want to jump over it and we don't want to deal with it. We just want to jump right over it and not deal with it at all in our lives. But Proverbs 16:9 says, the heart of man, the heart of man sets its way, but the Lord establishes his steps. So basically, the Lord establishes his steps. It's a step-by-step with God. But the heart of man, he just wants to have his way, plan his own way, Right now, it's convenient for me to jump right over this problem. God, I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to jump over it.
Wow.
Sometimes God calls us to walk through it. And it might be painful or it might be taking forever. But that's what God called us to do. For example, where was it? Okay, when Peter was called to walk on the water, he probably just wanted to jump across the sea. Who's gonna be okay, yeah, I'm gonna walk through this water because it's so logical to do right now. People are I just want to somehow jump over this huge mass of water. I don't want to walk right over it, But God called him to walk over it. Why? Because he wanted to test his faith in God. He called him to walk over the water, and that might seem crazy for you wherever you are right now, that you have to walk through something like that. If it's painful, it seems logical just to jump through it and not deal with it right now. But later it's going to come back in your life, and you're going to have to walk through it eventually. And Jesus himself commanded him to walk, because Jesus wants to grow us and test our faith, and it takes us further in the future and to grow us. Another example that I had through my life is with nursing. I just want to jump through a lot of things right now, but God is really making me walk through it. I just want to be in college in the program already, but God is calling me to keep applying, keep doing these things, keep bettering myself, preparing myself, and boy, God taught me a lot this whole year. More than probably I could have learned in a year in nursing school, believe it or not, just about life and just about how to push through things and how you have to better yourself. And, so to answer my previous question, should we jump when he says jump, or should we walk the path of righteousness? We should do both. We need to jump at times, yes, God calls us to jump, and that's awesome. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's a blessing for whatever ministry we're in. Sometimes we're struggling, and we're doing everything that we can, and we keep pressing forward. We're walking, and God calls us to jump. And that is like a big leap, but we can't forget all those times that He made us jump, and we need to walk when He tells us to walk. Like, for example, with our worship team, we've had jumps and we've had walks. Like, we've had to walk through some things, but then there were some times where it was like, whoa, we just completely jumped, you know? In a course of a month, sometimes like amazing growth was brought to us. But there are other times when we just had to like walk slowly through it. Same with David. Before he killed Goliath, which was like a big jump for him in his life, he had to take small steps. I mean, first he killed a lion, then what? He killed like a bear, you know? And I mean, those are still big things for me, like a lion and a bear. But nonetheless, there's still steps, and he needed to take those before he made a huge jump to beating Goliath. And so I just wanted you guys to remember that we must have both, but we need a balance of both to be successful and continue growing and completely trust God, because if we don't walk through it, we're not testing our faith, and we're not really putting our faith in Him and our life in His hands. Because remember, God said, seek first the kingdom, and He will add everything onto your life that you need extra.